Hey everyone, thanks for joining the Be Better Everyday podcast where we explore what it means to grow, improve, and show up for ourselves daily. Together we'll share our journey to be better one step at a time. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Let's grow together. I'm your host Josh. I'm here with my buddy Mac. Say hello.
Hey, Josh.
So today we're going to talk about anxiety.
Yeah, we were kind of searching for a topic, and I brought it up because I've been dealing with a lot of anxiety issues here recently. Um, and I think it's a problem that affects a lot of people, and it doesn't get talked about a whole lot.
Well, anxiety is something that everybody experiences just on a spectrum like everything else. From getting nervous to standing in front of a classroom full of people to, anxiety so bad that I can't leave your house,
Yeah, they call it agoraphobia, the fear of going outside. And I think, guys our age, anxiety and mental health wasn't talked about a lot in the late 80s, early 90s, early 2000s. Um, and, men were taught that they had to be strong and go make a living for your family and just kind of suffer through things.
Suck it up, buttercup.
Exactly. And therapy and counseling and medications and stuff like that were thought of as more of a weakness.
Oh, yeah. Think
And
of somebody going to a therapist in the 80s or 90s. I can't name one person that I know of.
no. And they thought of as a weakness, and now we know that they were they're actually just tools, extra tools that you have in your tool belt to help you out. And I think a lot of people would have benefited from maybe some of the more modern medications and stuff like that. We have to deal with anxieties and stresses and stuff like that. But not only that, but just talk therapy and having an unbiased third party to make you realize that you're what you would sometimes feel is like an irrational fear, irrational anxiety is just completely normal, and it's something that you have to work through in a healthy manner.
Yep. And like you said, these tools should have been brought up to us a long time ago. I mean, coping tools are something should be teaching kids in school, I think. So, we're going to talk a little bit about our own anxieties. And then I have a list of ways that are not only um, backed by science, but some of these I've used myself, and some of these I'm thinking about trying. So let's just talk about our own life and anxiety. Because I know mine, personally, my anxiety and depression kind of ride the tide with my chronic pain. So the more pain I'm in, the more anxious I am. Mine has more to do like my anxiety with being social, going out around people. Because the more pain I'm in, the shorter my fuse is, and so I don't want to be around other people.
Yeah, you have a lower threshold for other people's bullshit.
Yeah, I call it a shorter fuse before
Yeah.
I go boom.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I myself struggle with anxiety too, and sometimes, anxiety can be defined as an overwhelming sense of fear or tension that builds up inside of you that prevents you from doing something. I get into the point where mine's like a debilitating anxiety to the point where I just shut down. I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to do normal things. I don't want to shower. I go through the motions. It comes across as frustrated. It comes across as exhausted. And a lot of times when you're dealing with those things like anxiety, and you're at the point where you don't want to leave the home, you're trying to sleep more because you think I can just sleep through this depression or this anxiety. That's not always the case. But when mine triggers, I lash out and I say really hurtful things. And because I'm not outside the home, it usually winds up me projecting that onto someone I care about the most, or someone that's one of the only support systems that I have being my wife. We get into an argument, and I'll because I have all this built up tension and anxiety, my fuse goes boom, and I say really hurtful things that I don't mean. Um, but when I'm at that point, it's almost like I black out and don't realize what I'm doing at the time.
Yeah, I used to be really bad at lashing out. Well, even in, when you're in a bunch of pain too, the people that are around you are the ones that are like also your caretakers. So, that's normally always my wife. So she gets the real short end of it.
Mine as well, and thank God we both have amazing wives, that are loving and forgiving more than they probably should be or should even have to be.
Well, it goes both ways.
It does.
It's just that's how marriage is.
Yeah, I think
it's a never 50-50. As much as they lie to you and tell you it's going to be this 50-50 bliss, it is not.
It's never 50-50.
Hard nitty gritty work.
I read this.
We should do another podcast on just about marriages.
I read this thing yesterday that says, when someone says "I love you" and they say "I love you more," it's not just saying "I love you more than you love me." It's "I love you more than the hard times."
Ooh, that's good.
And I love you more than anything that's going to try to come between us.
I love you more than the bullshit. It's
exactly
basically what it boils down to.
and that's what it is. In marriages, when you spend that much time with someone and, you recently had to spend a lot of time at home over the years with your injuries and stuff, with your back issues. And here recently with my unemployment and stuff like that. And that should be coming to a head soon. And maybe we could talk about that one day. But I've had more time, and at some points it's been a blessing, and at other points it's been a curse where we need to spend a little more time not on top of each other, not beside each other 24/7 all day every day.
Yeah, it's like Monk always says, it's a blessing, and it's a curse.
Exactly.
But so I know with my anxiety, it was normally the worst was going out to friends and family events. Is like normally when mine would get the most worse for me, because I would just assume that my friends and family would expect me to show up and be a certain way when I got there, and if I felt like I couldn't like bring the normal Josh that everyone was expecting, that I would get a little bit overwhelmed in that feeling. Like, oh shit, what if I'm not, funny and outgoing because I'm hurting and I just don't even want to talk to people. I don't even want to see people's faces sometimes. And so that anxiety would build in me. But I learned through the last like 5 years or so that if I didn't bring these issues up with friends and family and talk to them and let them know how these things would make me feel, that like how would they understand? Like I would also get really anxious, like what if I go somewhere because I'm feeling okay, and then I would get anxious like, well, what if halfway through I start hurting so bad that I have to leave early, and like, oh, what would people think of me because I gotta leave early? And it goes back to the same thing. Like if I didn't bring it up and talk to people about it, like how would they even know that that's why I'm leaving early?
Yeah, I know your back issues and have affected your ability to go places and stuff like that. Like there's many times I wanted to invite you to a concert and I'd be even willing to buy your tickets for you to go, but I know that you just can't. That's not something that you can tolerate for as much as you want to go see Toby Mac or Crowder with me, or I know that's just not something. Like while you do want to go worship and spend time together and go do these things, a long car ride to Norfolk or Roanoke is not in the cards for you.
Yeah, I could leave and be fine, and by the time I get to the show, all I want to do is go home
or sit in a hard plastic chair at a concert.
Oh, I know. That's the first concert I went to after my second back surgery. We went to see Sublime with Rome and Dirty Heads, I think it was, and it was great, the car ride there and everything, but then we got there and they had these shitty plastic chairs, and like 20 minutes in, Next thing I know, I'm in so much pain that I have to like leave the area. I'm like, I got to go walk around, see if I can. I was going to go lay down in the car that we came in, but then there was no re-entry if I left the show, so I had no ticket to get back in. So then I was like, well, let me see if I can find like a grassy place to sit down or something. And I was sitting on a bench, just sitting there for probably like 40 minutes or so. And next thing I know, I got a alert from my Fitbit saying, "Way to go! You got your weekly aerobic goals." And I looked, and my heart rate was like 140, and literally the only thing I was doing was sitting there. But I was in so much pain that that I was sitting there and like forgot about the show, wasn't listening to the music. I was just trying to focus on, not hurting so much. And stuff like that happens anytime I can go out. I always call it now. I say, I can't give you whether or not I'm definitely coming or not because I'm a game day decision, basically about anything.
Yeah, which is hard when you're trying to plan a trip or something to go out of town and you're going to spend money on tickets and stuff like that. So yeah, I 100% understand where you're coming from there, and those, mine's not so much physical. I mean, it is physical because of my size, but it's a lot of mine is I have some PTSD about being around large groups of people. If I go somewhere to a restaurant or something like that, or to a concert, I kind of want to have my back to a wall, not have a lot of people behind me, not have a lot of people crowded up against me, and that's completely different. It's changed over the years. I used to love going to a concert venue and being on the floor and being around people and having a good time and having a couple beers and now it's like that's not even enjoyable, and it sucks because you don't have those same experiences that you used to enjoy.
Yeah, because you remember like, oh man, how much I used to love shows or love going here or there, but life kind of likes to throw curveballs at you and change you. I was thinking about this the other day, and we always talk about how cats have 9 lives, and I think one of the quotes I sent out earlier this year was how many times you have, you as a person die throughout your lifetime because you become a different person throughout it. And I was like, what if we have 9 lives too? And it's just the changes that we become, because I know I'm way different at 41 than 31 and way different than I was at 21.
Definitely wide open at 21.
Yeah. I was just think about it, how much I've grown in different aspects and how much I think I like the person I am now versus if I had to hang out with 21-year-old me. Oh, man. We'd probably get in a fist fight.
21-year-old me, I would have been insufferable. I could not have stand to be around myself. Now I'm a lot more calm. Before it was about, I used to go to the bar a lot, even though I wasn't a big drinker. I enjoyed the atmosphere and being with people and playing darts and stuff like that. And now it's like, I'm just as content being at home watching, binge watching something or playing a mindless video game, something that doesn't require a whole lot of thought.
Yeah.
We had talked about, and that's something I've recently gotten back into, is that I had bought the PGA Golf 2K21, which I used to play like Tiger Woods golf on PS2. And it doesn't require a lot of thought. It doesn't require a lot of my attention. It's something that I can kind of, if I'm feeling stressed, it's something I can put on. I can play a couple rounds of golf. I can play a tournament or something like that. I don't have to win. I'm playing by myself. I'm playing against the computer. It doesn't require a lot of my attention. I can listen to a podcast while I do it. And I find that really calms me. It really takes my mind out of what I'm worrying about. And sometimes I think what I worry about is really irrational. If you got down, but it's not irrational to me. I'm not having an income. I have a lot of financial anxiety. Now, I'm in a position where if I needed to get my hands on a large amount of money, I could. And it's not an issue with me. There's no problem paying my bills. But it's that anxiety of, not having that steady income, not going to work every day, I know that I have access to finances if I need it.
Yeah.
And that's not an issue. Nothing. The lights aren't getting turned off. The cars, all of our cars are paid off. So, and if we had a major mechanical expense, I know an awesome mechanic, and but that doesn't make it any more irrational to me, you know.
Yeah. What's the old say? I think it's depression is living in the past, anxiety is living in the future, and peace is living in the present.
Yeah.
And it's definitely because, like, when I think about it, anxiety is all the things I'm thinking about that's coming up, or I gotta do, or this. And a lot of the times, I've learned that the things I was getting really anxious about didn't even matter, and it wasn't even like once I started realizing I was having anxiety about going to, friends' parties or events and stuff, when I would bring it up to them and, talk to them about this is why I feel like that. And they're like, dude, why would you even feel like that? Just tell us you gotta go. It's not a big deal. Tell us you're hurting and we understand. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And luckily, I had a good therapist that told me to bring it up with people. It was like, hey, why are you not, telling these people around you who love you that, you got to leave because you're hurting, or you got to leave because, you're starting to hurt, or just whatever.
And that's one of the things that I struggled with when I lost my employment. Was I had an amazing therapist through the insurance that I had through my employer, and I wasn't able to maintain this. She worked with Anthem. I have insurance now, but she doesn't work with Anthem, so it's trying to. And I had been with her for about 9 months, and that's the healthiest relationship I've had with a therapist in my life. I don't think I'd ever gotten past a second or third appointment.
Yeah.
And it just didn't click. And with her, I think it was we did telehealth, which made it. She lived in Florida. I lived here in Virginia. You weren't going to somebody's uncomfortable office that they tried to decorate to make you more comfortable. They're sitting across from you with their legs crossed and they're taking notes on some yellow legal pad, and you feel like you're being judged. A lot of times I would go to the park and just get a Slurpee and sit in my truck, and while I'm not smoking anymore, I was chain smoking cigarettes through therapy, which I think helped me a lot. And I just enjoyed my therapist. And since I have lost access to that therapist, I need to find a new therapist. Someone I can talk to once a week or every other week. And,
yeah,
I really look forward to that time that I was spending with my therapist. And she was really helping me work through some things, my personal life, my marital life, my spiritual life, my family life, with some things with my health, working with my therapist and my wife. I've become medication compliant, which I've always struggled with. One of my biggest issues is I've been on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication for years, and I will take them and do so well. And I'm like a lot of people that struggle with mental health, I don't need these pills anymore.
Exactly. Or as soon as you feel like you got the hands back on the wheel, you're like, oh, well, I can just not worry about taking it every day.
Or if I miss a day, I'm not saying it's okay to miss a day, because you need to be as medication compliant as you can be.
We are not professionals. We're not doctors.
Whatsoever. We are not giving mental health advice at all. But a lot of times, what I would do is I would miss a day, and then it would just snowball to I would miss a week, and the next thing it would be a month. And I know how much better I feel when I take my medication. I know how much better I feel when I sleep with my CPAP machine on. They sent me a brand new one in the mail. I unboxed it and have not put it beside my bed yet. And it came over a month ago. And I know that I will sleep so much better with this new machine.
So good. It's a game changer.
So, we talk about be better every day. I think that's going to be my goal for this week, this episode. Get that CPAP out. I bought some new bedside tables a while ago and put them together and left them to use as end tables downstairs instead of moving them upstairs to the bedroom. So get that bedside table upstairs, plug in that CPAP machine, buy the distilled water, and hook it up and start using it. Because I know that'll make me feel so much better.
Yeah, I know. I've been a little bit anxious the last couple weeks, um, kind of because of the goals I set for this year. Because I feel like my biggest one I wanted to work on was getting more physically active. And last month was basically sick most of the month, and um, then last week I started to feel pretty good, and then Thursday came. I went to work. Work went fine, and then since then, Friday of last week, so over a week now, I've been limping when I walk because my body was just like, "Oh, you done? You done too much."
I
And I
don't
don't
know.
even know what it was I did too much of, but then next thing I know, my back normally gets tight first, and then my gait gets a little messed up, and then my hips start acting up, and then it pulls my sciatica, and it's a downhill effect, and it happens so quick. Cause like when I got home Thursday, I felt fine, and then I woke up Friday like limping around. Like, do I need my cane over the weekend? I was getting so bad.
And it really becomes a balancing act because, once you start doing better in one aspect or one area of your life, then another area suffers before, and what we've been doing more recently is we've been staying up, my wife and I have been staying up later at night and, watching a TV show or just hanging out, listening to music or playing a game. Um, but then that affects how much sleep I'm getting.
And
So
it can mess up a morning routine, even setting up a morning routine.
yeah, so it's like I go to bed early, but then we don't get that quality time together because while two of our kids are older and a little more independent at 14 and 17, we still have an 8-year-old that requires a lot of attention. And so when she comes home from school and we're doing homework and, we don't get a lot of that time without someone right there, that we have to spend time together later at night to, fill up that bucket. But then when you're filling up that bucket, you're cutting back on the amount of sleep that you're getting. And then when you're cutting back on the amount of sleep that you're getting, you don't feel like you have the energy to go exercise. And then your depression kicks in and you're not eating well. And then it starts to snowball. And it's like you have to find a way to in a healthy manner, fill those buckets up without depleting another bucket completely.
Oh yeah, my eating habits since I've been over not being sick have been atrocious, and I was thinking about it last night. Like, man, I really gotta get it together instead of just crushing food. Because that week or so of not being able to eat anything, dude. Once I was able to eat again, everything tasted so much better because it had been so long. So, because I was giving myself like little treats, but not a bunch of treats.
Yeah, I love treats too.
I know it's so good.
And
Treat yourself.
you and you deserve those treats because you work hard and um but it's like we said, it's that balancing act and filling those buckets individually.
I don't make excuses. I felt like trash, so I wanted to eat trash.
And that's the
And
other
it,
thing.
it it's a catch-22. It's a double-edged sword. Like,
I
it's so good going down, but then it doesn't do anything to help you out, help you get to the other side of your goals.
talking about anxiety and just want to touch on it quickly. I had my grievance hearing this week. So, and it was about 8 hours long. It was scheduled for 6.5. It started at 9 in the morning. It was scheduled to be over for by 3:30. It ran till about 10 minutes after 5. And I think we brought up some really great points. But you also have to sit there with your microphone on mute and your camera on, so you don't want to give a lot of facial expressions while you sit and listen to somebody for the better part of 8 hours tell you how horrible of a person you are. And that's just so hard to hear when that's not who you are in your heart, and they weren't there when the incident happened. And it's easy to Monday morning quarterback it and say, oh, you should have done this differently, or you should have done this differently. And the factors and things that you were dealing with in the moment and how their expectations and with what they give you to work with is unrealistic. But then they want to, instead of accepting responsibility, they want to pass the blame off on you and make you out to be this horrible person after you worked a 15-year career with no issues whatsoever. And then so for me, that kind of, while you know you're not those things, those people plant those seeds in your head, and you're like, well, maybe I am a horrible person. Maybe I did do the things they say I did with malice. And even though you know it's not true, it's so hard to hear. And then the next day I blew up. And the thing was, I blew up on the person that cares about me the most. And the person that stood there and supported me and has told me everything's going to be okay and told me how, good of a person I am and how hard a worker I am and how I'm a good father and a good husband. And it's like, she doesn't deserve that. And the people that deserve to hear my piece of my mind don't get to hear it at all and don't have to hear it.
Yep.
And so it's not fair to my wife, Bethany, and when she does listen to this, know that I love you, sweetie, and I'm sorry. And I'm working to be better every day. But I'm still human, and I'm going to mess up, I told her, I said, I know what happened there in the incident. I've explained to her what happened. She was able to.
I mean, it was so long ago that you had nothing but time to analyze every little pieces you can remember of it.
Exactly. And I know what happened in the incident, and there's no audio with their video recording. And the video recording doesn't look great for me, and it never does. Anytime you have to put your hands on somebody or restrain someone, it never looks good. I think if they had the audio ability to caption the audio and know that I was counseling the person through the restraint and stuff like that,
I mean, as big as we are, it wouldn't look good if you saw a video of us restraining anybody, basically.
Exactly. And so now it's done. The hearing's done. We're awaiting a hearing, the officer's decision. And whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it puts a finality on it.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah, it was like the same when I went through disability for 3.5 years. When you finally go through the final court with a judge thing, and you know that there's nothing else you can do. You just wait.
Exactly. So we're in the waiting period now. My lawyer did a fantastic job. I understand why she charges while it was very, very expensive, and I will not recover all of it. Or any of it if it doesn't turn out in our favor. I know she did a fantastic job, and she gave me 100% of everything she had. I had some people in my corner that spoke on my behalf, that know my character and work closely with me. And God knows what's in my heart, and He knows what happened during those two incidents, and I'm fine with any outcome.
Anybody who knows you knows that outside of your head, your heart's the biggest thing that you.
Yeah.
You got the biggest heart out of anybody.
Yeah, I
You just got a bleeding heart. You always have.
I've spent my whole adult, I went to boot camp on my 18th birthday. I didn't see you. I didn't see my parents the day I turned 18. A lot of kids talk about leaving town when they turn 18. And I was on a plane to Chicago. And, I spent my whole adult life in public service. And so to step out of it and be out of it for the last 6 months, I definitely have like a heart for working with people, and, trying to provide for the better good. But, if that's not my calling in life anymore, maybe it is a different season for me. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that season is and what that season brings and who it puts in my path.
I think it's going to be some cool stuff.
I'm really excited about it.
Share this podcast with your friends so we can do this full time.
Exactly.
Anyone who listens, share it on your Facebook. Share it to a friend.
Yeah.
We're only getting better, too. So get your friends in early.
Shout out to Norfolk, Virginia. We got a listener down there in Norfolk in the 757.
Yeah, maybe it's one of my family members. I don't know. I got some family down there.
Yeah, and I got some cousins that I have a cousin who was in the military, and he resides. He's out of the military now, and he resides down there. So, and maybe it's someone in Virginia that just has a 757 phone number. They're listening on their phone. Maybe it's somebody from Richmond with a 757 phone number. I don't know.
Who knows?
Whoever it is, we appreciate you.
Yep, we always appreciate it. So we're going to get into some tips and different things that you can do for anxiety?
Yes.
All right, so Uh, a big one is gut health. Did you know that?
I didn't.
So your microbiome can affect your um, neuroreceptors in your brain, and they're like there's a vagus nerve that like helps tell your body to relax and stuff like that, and it's all affected by your gut. So if you have gut issues, there's a good chance that that can affect mental issues too.
Do you think it works in reverse where mental
Oh
health
well,
issues?
mental health issues can definitely like if you get really people who get really anxious can have like strange bowel movements or stuff like that. It's it
I
definitely goes both ways.
I know my wife deals with Crohn's disease, and when her stress and anxiety are high, it definitely triggers, a lot of her stomach complications.
Yeah, and probably vice versa.
Yes.
Yeah.
With Crohn's, she has to spend a lot more time in the bathroom. I'm sure she'd love me sharing with this, but anyone that has Crohn's disease knows that a lot of times it takes them. They have to spend a lot more time in the restroom than someone who has, I guess, a normal stomach, whatever that means. Um, but that takes away from time that they have with the family or activities, or they have to be conscious when they go out. Is there gonna be a bathroom available?
Yeah, I mean, gut issues put you at bigger risk. It's a risk multiplier for depression, anxiety, and other cognitive things that can happen too. So if you have gut issues, you need to go see your doctor and uh, get your gut tested. See if you got like candida or something, you know, some kind of gut issue like that.
You're saying medical words that I know that you can't spell, and I don't know what they mean. So
I don't know. I just listened to enough stuff and uh, I luckily I have the Google Nest behind you, and I'm like, hey, Google Nest, tell me what this word is, and I'll spell it out, and it'll tell me what that word is, and then it'll tell me how to pronounce it too. So it's pretty handy technology for somebody who's, got learning disabilities like me. I
like
need
us.
I need all the help I can get.
And I think we laugh and joke about it, but there's a lot of stuff we don't know. But I think a lot of times what we'll do is we'll reach out and find resources, or we'll research people who do know or who are knowledgeable and try to become more knowledgeable. And that's one thing. It's like you and I have both become lifelong learners.
Yeah, I think
And,
that's the biggest thing
it's being
is
open.
being open to learning.
I know so many people who are really, really close minded, and they think that their opinion is the only one that matters, and whatever they say has to be fact. And
Like science hasn't changed in the last 50 years, or the way we even study science hasn't changed in the last 50 years. Like, or, you know, that new information really, like, a lot of people can't accept new information that comes out and because of how it fits into their beliefs when new information, is as long as it's backed by science and founded in actual something,
mm-hmm.
you got to do your research. Like when it comes to world news, when big stories pop, I watch the right side and I watch the left side, and I try to figure out what's in the middle. What's the actual where's because the truth's always somewhere in the middle.
And, we're talking about gut health a second. My sister and my wife, unfortunately both have Crohn's disease, but it presents itself in different manners in both of them. So it's while they do both have the same autoimmune issue of the Crohn's disease, my sister doesn't have to spend as much time in the bathroom as my wife does. It doesn't mean that my wife's symptoms are more severe. They both have Crohn's disease, and it just presents differently in both of them.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it too. With like any kind of condition, it presents different. Different people act. No one's the same. We're all unique. Even our doppelgangers. Even if you have a twin, I mean, there's still, differences between you. But next on my list is probably my favorite is move around. Like working out is great for your mental health. There's so many scientific studies about strength training and how good it is for your overall health and mental health. But one of the biggest things for mental health is just, even if you just walk or stretching, yoga, it doesn't even have to be like high impact or anything like that. Studies show that just walking can improve your mental health, even if it's on a treadmill. Outside is better because you get vitamin D too, hopefully, if you're walking in the sun.
Vitamin D, fresh air.
Fresh air. You know, a lot of times you're not staring at a screen if you're outside, if you're walking.
One thing that I realized it just kind of dawned on me the other day is, you know, the last couple of weeks, my stress, my depression, my anxiety's been higher. Dude, I haven't even recharged my smartwatch. I wear this thing. If I push the button, it will not turn on. It is dead as a doornail. And I like sometimes...
Just for looks right now. I can see the battery light on it right now.
Oh, yeah. I definitely push the button and it says, charge this thing if you want it to work. And it's like, maybe I don't charge it because I don't want to know what it's going to say.
Yeah.
You know, there's anxiety in being like, if it doesn't say what I want it to say, I know that it's my fault for not moving the way I should have been moving. But it's like, oh, that's one more way I failed today. You know, and then it just kind of snowballs in your head. And it's like, you already know that you aren't eating great. You already know that you aren't sleeping great. You already know that you're not working out the way you're supposed to or whatever. And it's like, why do I need one more reminder of how I failed?
Well, I need a stupid watch to tell me that I didn't do anything today.
Yeah. And then another thing that we
but if you change the way you look at it, you're like, oh, well, tomorrow's a new day. I'll try to be better tomorrow.
Yes. And one thing that I noticed I did out the gate when I started working out is I signed up for these classes, and the first one I signed up was definitely the wrong one to sign up for. It was not a beginner's class. It was like a high intensity interval training. And I was just like, I was not ready for it whatsoever. And so then I found like a more appropriate class, and that was better. So I tried to jump into something with both feet instead of like tiptoeing the baby into the pool and like working up to it. It's like, dude, you're still, you know, while you've lost weight, you're still extremely obese. And, you know, it's going to take a while until we can get to a point where we can do these high end, you know, the class was fun, and I think it definitely, but I was not ready for it. And it definitely, I think, set me back more than it helped me.
Yeah, I think not being able to walk so far this year, like I've gotten a handful of walks in.
Yeah.
And I think that's really affected my mental health so far into this year. I think that's why I got so anxious the other day thinking about, am I already too far behind to catch up? Instead of thinking, oh, hey, you know, you're limping around. Obviously can't go walk right now. But
what can we do?
Yeah, what can I do?
Or you know, maybe we need to, like, you know, it's only, first of all, we're only 1 month into the year. There's still 11 months left. There's still 11 pieces of the pie.
I know.
And we have to devour the first piece.
You get behind a little bit and you start thinking like, oh shit, do I just give up already? And then I know
that's so easy to do.
Yeah, it's so easy to give up. That's why we talked about it last podcast, where the second Friday of January is like an official holiday where everyone quits their resolutions for the new year.
Now, if we do want to talk about goals, we have released our third podcast. We are recording a fourth podcast. It'll get released in a couple days from after recording. But we have surpassed like the average podcast.
Yep, past 2.5.
Yeah, the average podcast lasts 2.5 episodes. We have released 3 and we're recording 4. So that is something that I'm proud of both of us for doing. It, you know, between you being sick and, you know, my depression issues and my wife's health issues, we haven't recorded as much as we want to. I think, you know, if we do get an episode every 2 weeks, I think that's great.
I know. I think both of us wanted like an episode every week. We were ready to go 52 for 52.
And if we get 26 out of 52, I'm super proud of us. It's something that we, for a while, said we wanted to do.
I know.
We've been talking about it
a couple years at least.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna start a podcast, and you're like, oh well, I'll do it too. Then let's just go ahead and do it. And then it wasn't until Black Friday sales this year.
And then we bought the first podcast equipment, and we recorded the first episode, and it wasn't great. And that could have been an opportunity for us to return that equipment and quit, but we didn't. We invested a little bit more. We got better equipment, and we said this is something that we're gonna. So hey, I'm super proud of you. I'm super proud of myself.
I know. Look at us.
Look at us go.
Who knows? Before you know it, we're gonna be at episode 20.
And I'll tell you what. Like, what's really good for mental health is like having time with my friend. Is like, I know that this is like our time together. That if nobody listens to it, it doesn't matter to me. I'm having a great conversation with my best friend.
Yeah. And worst case scenario, like, we keep doing it, and then all of a sudden people find it, and then you can see how much we've grown from this episode to episode 10, episode 15, episode 20.
Yeah, it's going to be baby steps. We're not looking for 1 million downloads out the door.
That would be nice, though. Share with your friends.
Yes, please do share with as many people. We want to reach as many people possible, and if there's something you guys want to hear about that you want us to talk about, by all means, shoot us a message. Send us a DM, or I'm not cool. Is it a twit or a tweet? I don't know. It's called X now. Send us an X. I don't know if that's what it's called.
We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube,
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts.
Be Better Everyday 24 at Gmail.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. Great. Be Better Everyday 24 at gmail.com. Shoot us a message. Let us know you're listening. Share it with your friends. Let us know what you want to hear. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. And just, we love the interaction.
Yeah, we're trying to grow, trying to build. But like Max said, if it's just us hanging out, talk to each other, speaking to the universe, speaking out into empty space, that's fine too.
Yep.
So next on my list is something I do, but I don't do it as well as I want to and as well as I used to do, and it's journaling. I used to be really good in the flow in a journal. If you open this drawer right here, there's at least 2 journals right in there. One of them, because there's different kind of journaling. So there's gratitude journaling, which is a great one. There's just normal journaling where you write down your day. That's kind of what I do. Is on days when I think about it, I write down like, oh, today was a good day, because I want to remember it. I have a shadow work journal that tries to help you work through, your shadows, your dark places. I've done a little bit of it, and then I realized that I was in a really good spot at the time when I started it, and I was like, I'm not in a spot where I want to, start dredging this stuff up right now. So it's something I'm going to get back into. Like Marcus Aurelius, the greatest journaler of all time. I mean, they only published a book called Meditations. That was insight into a ruler's head. I think he journaled in the morning and at night. So,
I'll tell you, I'm super good at buying journals. I will buy a book with blank pages. I'm so good at that.
And there's journals with prompts already in them too.
I think that's what I need, because I'm really good at buying journals. Really bad at journaling.
Journaling's hard, like especially like for me, because I'm not a good speller. I'm not like I can write stuff in the wrong order. I can read it back in the right order, but I can write stuff down in the wrong order. So if you look like if you read through my journal, some of the pages might come across like a mad person to other people, but to me it makes sense. But to me, one of the best forms to start with is called it's called brain dumping, where you just literally write what's ever in your brain. If it's just like, the dumbest sentence ever, and you just got to get it out there, you just write that sentence down, and you just keep doing it. And the more you do it, the more actual stuff, starts flowing out. To me, it's kind of like when meditation, like the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the more you do it, the easier it is to get into the flow of it.
Do you remember in school when we used to make like those spider diagrams for like a writing prompt? And so like you would start with a topic in the middle, and then you would build 3 topics off of it, and then you would build like 3 subtopics off of that, and then and that's how you would like form your paragraphs or whatever for your whatever the writing project was.
That sounds like an English thing, so I definitely would not have done that in school.
Yeah,
I would have did. I'd have held my hand up for the the LD teacher in the room and been like, "Hey, what do we? I need some help."
I think that's probably the best way for me to like structure things. Is like maybe we just take. What if I just something similar to that and just wrote the day's date in the middle, and then like 3 or 4 events off of those dates.
Yeah, you can start like that.
And then off of each event, like write 2 or 3 things about it, and like not have to put it in paragraph form or not have to put it in list form, and just let it be what it is.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest issues when it comes to journaling is like, everyone has in their mind like what it's going to be. Like, oh, I'm writing a book.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, you're not writing a book.
And
like sometimes I just write down, hey, me and Nate went to a car show today and we saw this really rare whatever car, but I more write down about the feelings like, oh man, we just had a great time today. I'm so lucky. I was so blessed to just be able to spend that time with them. And I just write that down so, later on, if he looks back at my journals like when I'm gone, or if I look back at my journals, hopefully when I'm old and grayer, I can, hopefully that sparks that memory to come up.
And you nor I are Marcus Aurelius, so our journals are not getting published. They don't need to be. It's a personal journal for a reason.
Yeah.
It's personal to you. But it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to be perfect. That's the beauty of being people, is we don't have to be perfect. A lot of anxiety can come from feeling like you need to be perfect.
Striving for perfection.
Yeah. My next one is a pretty cool one because it's a lot of different ways, is grounding. So different grounding techniques. You can literally go outside, put your bare feet on the ground, and that's grounding. There's evidence, if you want to watch cool YouTube videos, you can watch YouTube videos about grounding. They'll show you cool things. But also there's grounding sheets that you can get and that plug into your wall, just to the grounding your wall. But also grounding is there can be a 3-3-3 grounding, which is like if you're really anxious in a room full of people or something, you look around and you think of one thing you can hear, so you concentrate on that. Then you think of one thing you can see, and then you think of one thing you can touch right at that moment. And it helps bring you back into a moment when you're getting really anxious. There's also counting colors. Like this is one that I know a bunch of people that use. Like you just pick one color and you try to count everything in the space that you're in with that color. So you're not thinking about what makes you anxious. You're thinking about counting colors. You're thinking about something you can see, touch, and hear in an area. And these are grounding techniques that bring you back to a present moment. Even though the grounding that I was talking about outside is grounding too. It's a different type of grounding. A little bit more woo-woo stuff I like is tapping. You ever tried tapping?
I had a friend. And
I know.
You know who this friend is.
I know.
And
he took tapping to a different level.
He did. And I could see some of the benefits of it.
Well, there's scientific evidence to back.
Yes. So, this friend...
He did not present you with a good case of tapping, because there was a lot of other things happening at the same time.
Yeah. So I think there's some mental health issues there, and I think he went to an extreme. And if you do hear this, know that I love you, and I still think the world of you. But when it was introduced to me at that point in my life by that person who had changed so drastically from how I knew them when we grew up, while you and I both changed since we came to know each other in high school, I think we still have very similar personalities.
Yeah.
And this person has just strayed so far from what I knew and the person I grew up with, that it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth about tapping. I can see some of the benefits of it, but where it was coming from, I don't think was the healthiest presentation for me.
Yeah, exactly. Because I remember one time he showed me tapping before too, and I was like, "Oh no, there's something wrong here." But since I've gone down this, mental health pathway and finding ways to help with depression and anxiety, tapping is something I came across and I gave a try, and it can be cool. I did it for a little bit, and I did it for like 2 weeks, and I that's when I was journaling every morning, meditating every morning. So I just use it as my meditation in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I found benefits from it. It's something I use sometimes, but not that often anymore. And I think that's one of the things that's awesome is there's so many different techniques out there. And the more you try, the more you learn, and the more they lead you to other techniques. And I think that's why a lot of these woo-woo fringe things like tapping, because that's probably 10, 15 years ago he told us about that, and I have never heard anybody talk about it until probably the last 5 years.
Yeah, he was definitely early on the tapping.
Yeah.
And and I think it worked for him, and that's great. And some things that are going to work for one person, and that's why we talk about it being a spectrum. Things that work for one person are not going to work. It's not mental health is not like a one size fits all. And Josh and I will both tell you, neither one of us are mental health professionals. Both of us have struggled with mental health over the years. Both of us have found different coping mechanisms that have worked for us on our end of the mental health spectrum. And by all means, we are not mental health professionals. No way are we guiding anyone in any form of mental health other than they should see a mental health professional if it's something that you're struggling with. We're just sharing our aspects of it. And like I said, it worked for him at the time. He was really into it, and I think there wasn't a whole lot of studies on it at the time. And I think there's more studies on it now. And that may be something I want to relook at.
Don't discount me, bruh. I have my feet in mental health field. I am a peer recovery specialist.
Absolutely.
I'm trained in first aid for mental health. So I do have my feet in the sand for some mental health stuff. But like you said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist. But I'm a good friend, I think.
You're an amazing friend. You're an amazing. You had played role of my therapist. Sometimes it's just like you just need a sounding board.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I could literally, not that I would compare you to the wall, but I just sometimes need to get it off my chest, and I find really unhealthy ways to get it off my chest at times, and that's not where it needs to be. And you have many times been a healthy outlet to me, and you are my friend. And, I think sometimes, makes it easier for you to see things from my perspective. But sometimes you need that unbiased third party that tells you, hey, you might not be approaching this in a healthy manner.
Yeah, you may need to lay off of that, bro. You need to pull back.
Yeah. And you have, and that's the one thing that I love and respect about you is that, like, you're not afraid to call me on my shit. And I know that it's coming from a place of love, and it's coming from a place of respect. And it coming from the fact that, you want what's best for me as well.
I think that's the real difference between a real friend and somebody who's more of a acquaintance.
Exactly.
Like, so many times if you look back on your life, you had friends, air quotes, but it's somebody you never would share personal stuff with, or, bring up topics with, or say, hey, I think you're doing something wrong. Like, even if I tell you you're doing something wrong, but you keep doing it, like, I mean, that's your own personal choice too. I'm like we said, I'm not we're not professionals. We're just trying to help each other get through this thing of life. And, I just want to point out something like, hey, I think this may be hurting you. Maybe it's something hopefully it just gives you a chance to, like, oh, maybe I do need to look at that for a sec. And, maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't. But I think it's worked out so far in, 25 years or whatever?
Yeah.
Of being friends. Some more woo-woo stuff. Find a fidget toy. Can be very handy for people with anxiety.
Do you remember when the fidget spinner first came out?
Dude, I was so jealous the kids got all of them.
I know.
As soon as the kids would put them down on the table, I'd be like picking them up, have one in each hand.
I remember Dude Perfect made like a fidget spinner trick shot thing where they were like, and I learned how to like start it spinning and then like toss it in one hand and catch it in the other hand while it's still spinning. And I thought I was just like the coolest. And they are good for taking your mind off things. My daughter actually has like the having the accessibility, because I think some kids took them to school and they made it became a nuisance.
Yeah.
But then like someone like my daughter who has like processing issues, she's able to use something like a quiet fidget toy. We had like this little cube that has a button that clicks on one side and something you can like almost like a video game thumbstick on the other side that you can just kind of manipulate or whatever. And it's not loud. It doesn't have that humming noise of ball bearing spinning. Yeah, I mean, fidget spinners must have put the ball bearing business on, like just through
ball
the
bearings went up.
Yeah, if you had stock in the ball bearing business when the fidget spinner boom hit.
I know Nate had a cool one that was a gear shift. It was like a 6-speed with reverse.
Nice.
Sit there and go through the gear shift.
But my daughter actually has it in her IEP that she has access to a quiet fidget toy.
That's sweet. Another, I guess you consider woo-woo one is humming to music or chants. If you look back, for millennia, people have been humming and singing and chanting. Really, there's monks, Christian monks, Buddhist monks. There's a lot of chanting, and it actually activates your parasympathetic nerves, like your vagus nerves that runs from your gut to your brain. It's actually science behind stuff like this, but it's not until recently that we start looking into stuff like this. So there's like small studies, but all of them show like positive outcomes, but haven't been giant studies yet. So I'm hopefully moving forward that things like tapping and humming and chanting get more studies done, and so more people even try it.
One thing that the VA has gotten into, and I'm a huge advocate for mental health in the veteran community. They say 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Numbers probably higher than that.
Yeah.
But one of my other friends that I worked with previously was telling me the VA offers hypnosis now as an option as like a mental health treatment. And so I haven't really looked into it a whole lot, but it is another option. So it's like the VA is starting to really reach out and find other avenues for treatment other than just strictly medication, because while I'm on and there are side effects to all the medications. A lot of these what are they called, SSDIs or something like that, I think is what they're called. They have, and I may be completely wrong, please do not take any of this as fact, just what I've read and listened to, is they can actually like lower your libido. So there are side effects to these mental health medications, and so the VA is actually reaching out to find alternative treatments now to just putting on somebody on a lithium based medication that have way more adverse effects than it is helpful.
Well, just watch any commercial on TV, it'll tell you all this.
Oh my gosh, if you listen to these things, it's like you would never take a medication again in your life. It's like, yes, it may ease your headaches, but it may also cause kidney cancer or something. It's like, are you really trading one for another? So you have to really weigh your options and work with your mental health professionals and your medical professionals to find what medication works best for you, because what works for one person is not going to work for everybody.
Yeah, and what works for you now may not work for you a year from now, or 6 months from now.
I've had to change doses, and I've been on the same medications because I think they're successful in my case, but we have had to mess with altering doses and raising the dosage of my antidepressant while lowering the dosage of my anti-anxiety medication.
Yeah. Another woo-woo thing. I know this worked for my son. He really liked it for a bit of a time until he started actually growing and getting big like me, is a weighted blanket. I get too hot. I can't stand.
Yeah.
I barely sleep with a blanket on
I
And
do too. I'm definitely a one leg out kind of guy with a blanket, but we got these weighted blankets for the kids because my kids a lot of children have anxiety issues, and it worked well for one of my children, didn't work well for the other one, and so I started using it, and I just love like the pressure that I felt.
yeah, a lot of people do. Like, what was that movie? Tim Brendan movie. You remember that one where she made the like little machine that hugs her. Oh man,
Oh, it's with telling the one with Claire Danes about the cattle.
was it Claire Danes or was it
Yeah, it was Claire Danes.
yeah, where she's like autistic or
She
something?
plays the autistic girl, like the Texas girl that works with the cattle and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
kind of
Yeah.
like that. Just feeling that weight on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like sometimes when things feel out of control, that having that pressure controls things.
Yeah. This is we're back off woo woo now. Back to studies that show meditation. Something I like, something I suck at doing all the time.
I've never dabbled my toes in meditation.
Well, I say like this: you got to give it an honest try. There's so many apps out there that give you like 7 days, 21 days, 30 days, whatever. I always say start with an app because it kind of gives you like like Headspace and stuff. They'll give you like some of the science actually behind it while you're doing it. But I've done a bunch of different ones, and what I like to do, me personally, is when I start off a meditation, I also do like a little stretching routine, and so it helps my body relax a little bit, but it helps my mind start focusing on what I'm doing right that moment, because that's the hardest part. What you're trying to get to is where you think about nothing, but in the world we live in, all you do is think about stuff all the time.
Yeah, I know that my anxiety, if I tried to think about nothing, I would
You would think about all the bad stuff.
I would snowball. And like, sometimes people say that like, I'm I think of myself a lot as an iceberg. You only see like, the top of the iceberg that's out of the
Yeah.
water, but like 80% of the iceberg is beneath the surface of the water.
I think that's true about most people because, everyone wears their mask out. You wear, you're a little bit different at work than you are with friends, than when you are with your wife, than you are with your kids.
Yes.
So, I mean, it makes sense. To me, the hardest part is um, doing it regularly, but I know the more I do it, the more often I do it, the easier it is. Because, like, when I'm first getting back in, it takes me 15, 20 minutes to, like, get into the flow. And I use a lot of music. I actually use a lot of chanting music. I use Native American war drums. I love that. I love Viking war music. Like I like classic Indian music when I'm meditating. I like something I don't understand the words to, so then I'm not focusing on what they're actually saying or singing about.
That makes sense.
And so that's one thing. My brain's, got noise happening, so it's blocking out, random noises coming in from around you that might distract you. Like, oh, was that the wind blowing the door open a little bit? And you get distracted thinking about that.
Yeah.
But this blocks that, blocks the noises out and helps me focus on breathing. Because that's what it comes down to, is when you start focusing on just being able to count like your breaths when you're doing something. Because like I'll start to where like, oh, I want to do 10 in and out breaths, and it gets hard to count to 10. You're like, how could it be so hard to count to 10? And when all you're doing is going, in one, out two. How's it hard to get to 10 and I forget what number I'm at? Like, how stupid am I? Is it? And then you get frustrated about that. And a lot of times I'll start off by just saying in and out, in and out. And that's all I can focus on, is just thinking about breathing in and breathing out. And then I can start counting breaths. And then it gets to the point where, I'm not even worried about that because I'm just like in the moment, in the flow. It's something that takes a lot of practice. I used to say, bring this up all the time when I was doing presentations. It's the easiest, hardest thing that you'll ever do. Trying to be present for the moment is so easy in thought, but hard in action. Another thing, I love this one, cold plunges. Got to bring up cold plunges because there's actual chemical response that happens. It releases dopamine and other endorphins. Um, if you can't get into cold plunging, start with cold showers. If you can't get into cold showers, if you're feeling anxious, you can go get cold water and put on your neck and face like they do in all the movies. You know, when something's happened, they got to go to the bathroom and splash water on their face. It's because it works. Or a simpler one, if you're like starting to get really anxious, is you can just grab 2 ice cubes and hold them in your hands. Just hold them in your hands until they start melting. It's actually...
Yeah, I've always wanted to try cold plunges.
Dude, I was at Sam's Club last night looking at one, getting really excited. They had a little sauna set up right next to a cold plunge there, and both of them had me really excited. I was like, ooh, $500? I was like, I could get a cold plunge and a sauna
for $500.
Mm-hmm. I think the cold plunge was $199 right now, and the sauna was like $220 or something like that. So less than $500.
Wow.
After taxes. But the cold plunge had me really excited. I even made Jackie look at it with me last night.
I wonder if you write it off as a medical expense.
I don't know. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. If someone has like HSA or something like that in their health savings account or whatever.
They should be able to, because there's actual health benefits to it. So you release a cold shock protein. Happens when you're in a cold plunge.
How long do you sit in there for?
Not very long. If you do it like a cold plunge, like 5 minutes max. You're crazy if you go. I mean, I've gone longer than 5 minutes in a cold plunge, but most people only do like 2 or 3 minutes. And a lot of people, they cheat because they go from sauna to cold plunge, which I've done, and it's cheating. It's way easier to go.
Yeah, your body's 130 degrees before you get in the cold water.
Yeah. You kind of get that barrier around you, and then it like slowly sinks in. But when you just hop in it, and it's like 40 in there, 40 or 50. Yeah.
We were talking about going to, well, the ones that I've seen on like YouTube and stuff like that are people that have like an ice chest or whatever, like an old deep freezer, and like they're literally going out there with like a little ball peen hammer and busting up ice before they're getting in.
Yeah, trust me. I'm in like 3 DIY cold plunges pages on Facebook.
And I'm like, I don't know if I need to like bust ice to get in the. So I wonder what's the temperature that needs to be effective.
Oh, the protocol is like
because 50-degree water is cold. I
think the benefits start at 50, under 58 or 57 degrees. Don't quote me on that, but I think studies show that that's like when the cold immersion like benefits really start, is when the water's down below 58. But a lot of people, like I heard Joe Rogan talking about his cold plunge is at like 34 degrees.
Maybe we'll go look at it when we're done today.
Yeah, let's do that. It's pretty awesome. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because it's like inflatable. So I was like, "This is no way this could be good." But I like messing with it. Like I touched it and I was like, "This may be awesome." Because I was like, if you inflate something and you fill it up with water, like what's going to keep it? I was just thinking about old kiddie pools, like how easily they just flop open.
Yeah, my neighbors bought this. My neighbors bought this Coleman inflatable hot tub, and anything that retains water, you gotta treat it or change the water constantly, because algae starts to build up, or like things like that. So I was like, well, dude, if you just put it in your garage, you wouldn't have that issue. He's got unlike my garage, which is full of everything and nothing. He's got this giant open space. I'm like, well, dude, just put the hot tub up in your garage. Then you don't have to worry about popping it or being overexposed to sunlight and algae building up. You could probably treat it pretty minimally. But then also, if it does bust in your garage, you got an issue.
Yeah, you can use like probably like Epsom salt, like they use in float tanks and stuff. Yeah. That'd probably be a good way.
I've never tried like flotation, sensory deprivation.
It's dope. I love it. I haven't probably been almost a year since the last one I went.
Don't they have like a?
Yeah, we got one in Short Pump. The one that I go to. Last one I did was 90 minutes. I did the same time. Actually, it's been just over a year because it was right before Christmas last year.
It's dark.
Oh yeah, it's dark as shit, bro. It's pitch black. You lay in 98-degree water, so it's like the same temperature as your skin, and then the air that blows in is like 98 point whatever comes in. So the idea is the little bit of skin that floats above the water, because you can't sink or anything because there's so much Epsom salt in there. You float regardless. Like nothing you could do would sink down in the water. And they give you a little neck pillow that you can put behind your neck so you stay above water.
You fall asleep in there?
I don't. I haven't.
Does it play music or?
Yeah, there's like little like kind of nightlight if you want to keep it on, and then there's music if you want to keep it on. It's like like elevator music type stuff. But what I normally do is I get in there. You got to shower off before you get in to rinse off any kind of body oils or whatever.
Yeah.
And in between each person, the whole tank gets sucked dry into a filtration system, and then it fills back up.
Like a reverse osmosis type thing.
Yeah. And so you shower off, you get in there, and what I do personally is you're like me, you'd have to get the room because they make pods and they make rooms. Mm-hmm. We're too big for a pod. Like I think
if we're two urn guys, we're not a one pod guy.
Yeah. So you get the room, and then I get in, and I turn the light off as soon as I get comfortable, and then I let the music play for like a minute or two, and just to get adjusted to floating, and then I cut the music off, and then I just let whatever happens. And sometimes it's just kind of boring. You're like, I've been in there before where it wasn't until like the last 10 or 15 minutes where like started really getting like deep thoughts or whatever. Like I was just kind of floating around for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And, then things started to switch. But I've also been in there and came out feeling like every time I've done it, I've come out feeling refreshed and renewed. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just a good time to unplug because you're in there. If you're in complete darkness and no sound, you just kind of unplug from stuff for an hour, because normally it's an hour. I've only done one that's 90 minutes, but just that unplugness away from everything I think is important.
Maybe we'll look and see if they have Groupon.
Oh, they always got Groupon. Trust me. They got salt caves, all kinds of cool stuff up there. All right, the last thing I will bring up for anxiety is professional help. So it probably should have been the first thing, but I just wanted to make sure that we, bring up that we are not professionals again. So there is professional help out there, like CBT therapy, just regular talk therapy. And, these are things you need to talk about with professionals. Like I said, if you have gut issues, you need to talk to your doctor about, and that may be affecting your mental health. And like you brought up, vice versa, your mental health may be affecting your gut health. Because we like to think things are separate in our body, but everything's pretty interconnected. The more research is done, the more we realize that. And then I had a couple new research studies that came out. One of them came out yesterday. So we're on the cutting edge.
We are. We're on the front line of mental health research, you and I.
That's scary to say. But one of them was from January 28th. It was when it got published in Neuron. It was an experimental drug compound that activated a type of brain cell receptors, MGLUR2 receptors, are already in a lot of your brain cells. But what they found out is this specific circuit, it reduced signs of anxiety without side effects. So they were able to get a certain, a specific certain circuit of your brain to fire these brain cells, and it reduced people's anxiety. That's awesome. That's kind of cool. And then the other one that literally just came out yesterday, it was published in Today in Science. It was actually researchers at Duke University for this one. I thought it was pretty cool. researchers have unveiled the precise mechanics that enable animals to overcome instinctive fears. So the study in mice have so they developed a therapy where they like fix disorders like phobias, anxiety, PTSD in people, or well, in rats. So that's what they're thinking, that this specific study is shown, since they know exactly the mechanics that happen when we're afraid of something. So they think that they'll be able to stop that from happening, so you won't have these phobias.
So, like, maybe someone who has, like, a fear of flying.
Yeah.
Or, agoraphobia, like we talked about, with the fear of leaving the house and stuff like that, to get them back into a typical social setting,
Exactly.
That'd be awesome. That'd be huge for people.
Yeah. It's only in the rats right now. That was what the study was in.
Yeah. And, well, the reason they start on rats is because they have we're both mammals, and they have a similar brain structure to us, that on a much smaller scale. So,
and rat studies are so easy to recreate.
I was reading this funny thing on here on my phone before we started recording that was like, I would sleep a lot better at night if I didn't sit there and wonder, like, where do hamsters live when they're not in pet stores? Because I've never seen a hamster in the wild. And it's like, other than seeing someone pet her at the pet store, I've never seen a hamster out in the wild.
It's so true.
And it's like, that keeps me awake at night. I was like, it's not like, obviously that doesn't keep me awake at night, but there are things that I worry about, like, or things that I think about that just don't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And they take up so much space and they're meaningless,
I know. The things that you remember that you don't need. And it's always like the things that you don't need to remember are the things that stick around the longest.
Oh, yeah.
Like, these cool things about mice. There's a study, since that mouse study made me think of it, that they can give mice on the East Coast a maze to solve. And somehow they give these same exact mazes to mice and rats on the West Coast, and somehow they can always solve them faster on the West Coast. And they think it's some kind of like communication that happens through the species that can somehow travel, the whole country.
Well, it gets back to like the grounding and stuff like that. It's like, how, we are, while we are on this rock that's spinning through space or whatever,
a bazillion miles an hour,
we're all interconnected or something like that. And like how, where we are, whether it be the temperature or, the surroundings, things, the way that people react to something in one environment is completely different to how someone reacts in a completely different environment. Maybe people that are, that live closer to the equator, that are further away from, like, the opposite ends of the polar spectrums, react differently. Maybe there's some science behind that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just...
There's so much cool stuff that we have yet to discover.
We were like, people were talking about, read this article that says, they're trying to find all these things on different planets, ways for us to live on Mars and stuff like that. And it's like, how much of it, like, you talk about something like the Mariana Trench and how deep it is and what creatures are living on this earth that we haven't even, what's the guy's name, Forrest Gallant or whatever, that goes out into, these Amazonian jungles and find these either species that they thought were extinct or discovers a new species. And it's like, we're trying to worry about how we're going to find somewhere else to live because we are obviously rapidly depleting resources here.
I know. We got to go to Mars now.
But,
I was just telling Jackie last night, there's this spot on Earth. Oh, man, I went blank on the name of it, but it's like this spot on Earth is 2,600 kilometers from the closest piece of land. And I guess it's where we send a bunch of our satellites and old spaceships to, because there's no one around.
Mm-hmm.
And so this spot is 2,600 kilometers from the closest point of any land, and the space station is only 400 kilometers.
Yeah, it's closer than this place than anywhere else.
Yeah, like 5-6 times closer.
The Earth is so big.
I know, and we get so used to it being so small because we spend all of our time in our little areas, and it's not until you go out, and I think that's why travel's so important to people.
Yeah, and well,
because I love my favorite places that I've ever traveled to are places that make me feel small, and that's like places where you can see the sky better and you can see how many stars are up there, or like the Grand Canyon where you're like, oh, I'm just a little speck of sand in this whole thing.
Just being on a mountaintop at night when it's dark. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what'll make you feel really small is like when I was in the Navy, going up on an aircraft carrier flight deck at night.
I bet you that's wild.
And there's certain times where we're doing different maneuvers, moving from one place to another that you don't want to be. We'll shut off all radio communications and there'll be no internet access or phone access because we want to, as covertly as possible, get someplace as fast as possible. And so they'll set up these little barriers so that we don't emit any light from, like, kind of like a maze, like S-shaped thing you have to walk through around these black panels they put on the doors to go to the outside of the ship. And so it blocks off any, like, light from escaping.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so at night, like, you go past these little doors, walk through this walkway, and you'll go outside, and the lights on the flight deck will be off, and you'll be out there, and it is dark. You want to talk about a dark you've never seen before, where you can see a billion stars, and it's like, you think about it, and those stars that you're seeing now, a lot of those have already burnt out, and we're just now getting the light. They're so far away that light just now getting to us.
Yeah, a lot of the flickers you see happened like a million billion years ago,
and we're just now getting. And again,
and you're lucky enough to see a flicker or something like that in a star that happened long before the pyramids were built.
And again, Josh and I are not astronomers or anything. We have no idea what we're talking about, but it's just, it's just this crazy ride that we get to be a part of.
I know. I think that's the coolest part. Especially right now is a good time to be alive because we're learning all these new things.
Well, hopefully.
I think about it all the time, like, and I've talked about it with Jackie before, like, as much as it sucks, the type of back surgery that I got and have to, like, I kind of like grandfathered into the shitty version because there's not a better one. Mm-hmm. But I think about it, what if I was born 100 years before? I'd just be unable to walk since 2006. So yeah. For the last 18 years, I wouldn't have just I'd have been in a wheelchair or something.
I saw this documentary on this guy that had to live inside of an iron lung.
Oh yeah, the guy that just passed away.
Yeah,
he lived in there for what was it, 70 years, 60 years?
It was crazy. And they were like trying to find parts and pieces to keep him alive.
Because he was the last one, right?
Yeah, he was the last person to live inside inside the iron lung. And, the technology that we have has superseded, the technology that he needed, because it's not something we're researching anymore because we no longer have only one person on Earth has a need for it. And I mean, could you think about just laying there he could watch TV or whatever, but just to be laid constantly on your back for 70 years,
I don't know how you get over it. That's one of my biggest things is like when you're stuck at home, when it's a choice, it's one thing. But when you're stuck at home because you can't like walk or you can't do things, a lot of people don't understand the different level of toll it takes on your mental health.
And some people's mental health prevents them from going outside.
Yeah.
We had, even when I was in high school, like 15 years old and working at the grocery store, we had this one customer that had agoraphobia, which nobody understood in the 80s and 90s, really.
Yeah. Who's that?
That was just the crazy lady that we had to deliver the groceries to, but you don't think of it as like a serious mental health issue. You think, she burned a lot of her trash because she didn't want to take the trash out to the trash can. and her groceries got delivered to her house and stuff like that. And she had minimal contact with the outside world. And I mean, that must have been a horrible toll that it had taken on her to get to the point where you can't
leave your house. I was bringing up a little bit of anxiety that I had, and it kind of goes back to like how I felt like I'm kind of behind the ball already this year on the goals that I want to accomplish. But I think some of that anxiety had to do with I feel like my physical health has definitely fallen off since the end of my disability process. Because once that ended and my disability did get approved, I had to like find a job. Like, even though I could only find a part-time job, and that's the only thing I've been able to do is part-time jobs, that they take so much out of me that before, when I was on short-term, long-term disability and going through disability through SSI, I would spend majority of my day like doing recovery stuff, doing rehab stuff, going on walks. Like, my whole day was only devoted to like trying like, my whole point was to not need disability. But I was also working on the path where at the time I needed it, and I feel like I still need it. But since that process ended and I had to work, now I'm so tired and hurting so bad from driving a truck around in a cushy seat a lot of times that I can't, do the things when I get home, like foam rolling, spend an hour on the ground foam rolling, and massage gun and stuff like that. Because by the time I get home, it's time I got to cook dinner and take a shower, and then it's almost time for bed.
Yeah, if you gotta sit down and meditate for 30 minutes, you're so tired. And you just fall asleep.
Well, that's the beauty about meditation, is like sometimes if you fall asleep, it's just because, you kind of, your body needed to sleep more than it needed to focus on being present. Is one of the things I learned meditating. I used to do it with Nate to put him to sleep because he was just a wide open child.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can't get him to even think about meditating anymore. Dude, we almost did an hour and a half.
That's crazy. It doesn't even feel like it.
I know. I felt like we could do more on anxiety, but I had to shut the book because we were at 80 minutes.
Well, that'll give us enough. If we do want to double back and talk about it, we can.
Yeah, you can always
more research is going to come out, and maybe we'll try some of these things. Like, I've never tried meditation before. I'd like to try the meditation.
Yeah.
And so maybe we'll circle back and just kind of have a
download an app and then
review.
I think Headspace gives you like a free 21 days, and Headspace is like one of the best. Like Calm, Headspace, they're like the top ones. And I've done Headspace a couple times with Nate. Do that freebie.
Well, and then I want to try the float.
Dude, floats are cool.
Yeah, maybe we'll look at a Groupon.
Oh yeah, dude. All right, well, thanks everybody for tuning in again. For the few of you that'll listen outside of me and Mac re-listening to this, and our wives listening, and I hope there's some friends and family out there listening. We look at the stats, guys, so we know. Don't lie to us.
Thank you guys so much for everything.
And remember, be better every day.